Hello, Yawning Angel here with another AMOS video, although this one's a bit different because in this video we're going to install AMOS Professional from floppy disk on the Back in Black Amiga. How hard can it really be? Well, actually, I have to say it was a bit of a nightmare. It did not go the way I intended. Yes, as you can see, I got AMOS Pro installed on this machine, but not in the manner how I originally intended it to be installed. I wanted to install it from floppy disk, and I wound up installing it from ADF files in the end. It was all a bit of a nightmare. So this video is predominantly my journey to get AMOS Pro installed on this machine. It's not as quick as I would have liked, so bear with me because I'd like to take you through the steps which I took in order to get there in the end. It's a bit of a ride. I would like to say a special thank you at this point to Goldfish on Games, who at the 11th hour provided me with the files that I needed in order to make this whole exercise succeed. So thank you, Goldfish. Right, so if you want to grab a cup of tea and sit back, because this video's a little bit longer than I would have imagined, but it's worth the journey because I get there in the end. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So after giving the discs a visual inspection to make sure there was no damage to the discs, I decided to run these through a piece of software called Disk Salve. This is on my main Amiga, and I used the external floppy drive here to help with this scan, make sure there were no corrupt sectors on the discs. I didn't want to risk damaging the internal drive on the Back in Black Amiga, so I kind of figured that if I use the external drive and Disk Salve here on my main Amiga, probably, while it's a problem if anything happened to that external drive, not too much of an issue, kind of figuring it's easier to repair that than it would be the internal drive on the other machine. So this process was very thorough, and it took between sort of 2 to 6 minutes per disc. So this sequence has been speeded up and shortened for your viewing pleasure, because you don't want to sit there like I did watching every single sector being checked over and over again. And at the end of this process, I was happy to see that every single disc came through fine with no reported errors. Even the Amiga format AMOS Pro cover disc, I scanned that as well just to check. Everything was fine. So with that in mind, we were now ready to swap over machines and start the install from floppy disk for real. And here we are on the Back in Black Amiga, and we're about to install AMOS Pro from the system disk. So I kind of slap that in the drive and run the installer. This is the unmodified installer, bear that in mind for later, but it's just a case of firing up the installer and seeing what happens. But things did not go according to plan. My screen went blank, and this is what the OSSC captured. It all went a bit wrong and was a bit of a car crash. This was not expected at all. Whoops. I don't know why, but I thought there might be a problem with the Amiga pushing the video signal through the OSSC, so I connected my monitor directly to the Amiga and ran the installer again, just to see if that made any difference. And guess what? It didn't, so this was a complete waste of time. But, you know, I just thought it'd be worth a try, because you never know. You never know. These things are worth a try, aren't they? Yeah, that's not happy. I then figured it might be worthwhile trying disabling fast RAM and seeing if that would make any difference. So just bringing the Amiga back to its base memory configuration. That could have been a problem, but guess what? In this instance, that once again made absolutely zero difference to this process. I was starting to run out of options. Oh, that still doesn't look very happy, does it? No. So after all that, will AMOS Pro actually boot from the floppy disk itself? Is there a problem with the floppy disk? Is AMOS even going to work from disk? So I needed to check that out. Slap the disk in the drive, reset the Amiga, and AMOS Pro booted up straight away with absolutely no problem whatsoever. The original AMOS installer does an available space check on your hard drive to see if there's enough space to install AMOS Pro into, which makes sense, you would expect that. But there's a problem with it. It returns a negative value most of the time. And the reason being is because it's only expecting the available hard drive space to be quite small, which back in the day it would have been, not the gigabytes of storage which we have available to us now. So as a result, it runs the maths, it does the calculation and says, no, you don't have enough space because it's got a negative value back. So you need to create more space or it won't do the install. So what I had to do was from around the web, through various sources, people pointing me in the right direction, I found a solution which kind of corrects that and makes the AMOS Pro installer give you the more or less accurate amount of free storage that you've got left on your system. It's not perfect, but it does get there, and I'll show you how that all comes together next. But because the AMOS Pro installer is written in AMOS, it was possible to make the changes to that installer to get it to do the correct size calculations, and we're going to cover that next. This is the thread on ultimateamiga.com where I sourced the code from the post by Bruce Uncle, who puts himself down as an AMOS dev. This is the code that I've implemented in the revised installer. This kind of gets around the miscalculation on available free storage for install. Do go and check this thread out. Do go and read it. It may give you a bit more of an insight as to what needs to be done, but this is where I sourced that code from. Link for this will be in the video description down below. Right, so here I am in AMOS Pro on the Back in Black Amiga, and I'm going to load the installer program. So this is the modified installer program. So the original AMOS installer is written in AMOS, which is actually very useful. I'm going to shoot straight to the bottom of the code because there's a new procedure that I've put in here. Now I want to be very clear, the calculations in here are not mine. So this is actually based on code by a user called Bruce Uncle, who was on ultimateamiga.com, and this is from a post back in 2017. I will put the link in the video description down below. But the user here gave a new calculation as to how to get AMOS to work out the available storage space that was free in order for AMOS Pro to install. Now this code is a bit scrappy because I've added some extra bits in here. So the first thing I've done, I've put it into a procedure called new store. There's anything to do with printing out to the screen, I've actually commented out, and I'll explain why in a moment. But the things you need to be aware of, if you are installing on DH0, you need to uncomment this line and comment out the DH1 line when setting directory string. I was installing on DH1, that's why I've got this line in here setting directory string to DH1. The rest of the calculations are, as I said, from user Bruce Uncle. So whoever you are, Bruce, thank you ever so much for this. It's helped. The calculations are still quite finite in the requirements that they have, and I would advise you to go and look at that link on ultimateamiga.com that explains a bit more about this. So I've done a bit of a hack here in order to get this to give me a value in this variable called d3. this will be the value that is checked to see how much disk-free space there is in order to determine whether AMOS has enough space to install. Now obviously on modern internal hard drives, compact flash cards, there's going to be enough space. You know, we're running gigabytes of space now. There will be. So this hack kind of works, but still only later on down the line as part of the install process gives enough space for the system disk and the accessories disk to be installed. Not enough space for everything, because I think further on down the line there's another space calculation which I can't get to. I could be proven wrong, and obviously there's a lot of people, clever people out there in AMOS land. Have a look at this and see what you can do and if you can modify it. Anyway, you probably noticed that where I've got any locate and any print commands here, they're commented out. You can have them uncommented and you can run the program and it will display back to the screen the amount of space that it's finding and that is available to you. That gives you a bit of a debug functionality there. But when you go to run this for real and in anger, you need to comment this out, all the print commands, anything to do with printing, so palette, screen, print, locate, comment them out, because otherwise you will run into a window open error, which I did not explore any further. I just figured I knew what size I had and I just needed the installer to run. So I got rid of, just commented out all the print statements and any screen statements in here, like this line here, screen open 1, we don't need that. Right, so this procedure new store, this is called from line 200. Let me just scroll up here. So we've got this calculation here, which is looking for the amount of available free space in order to find out whether AMOS can actually install itself. So this is the original line, FRI equals D3. So I put a comment in there. This is the old line of code as commented out, and this is the space storage space fix. So I make a call to the procedure new store, and whatever is passed back in the param value is now put into the FRI variable, and that is what is used to determine by AMOS, can I do the install, yes or no? So quick shoot back down to the bottom, let's have a look at that parameter. So here we go here, where I've set D3 in that procedure, when I end the procedure, I pass the value of D3 back. D3 is the param value, and it is the param value back up here in line 202 that is then moved into the FRI variable, and things should work, and it should allow you to do the install. So on my hard drive in the programming folder, I have got a modified version of the installer. This does a new memory check. So that's on my hard drive already, and this is just to see if this works. This is actually running off of an ADF version of the system disk, but I just want to see if this is actually going to work. So what we're going to do then is run this installer. Okay, so select a different tool, volumes, we'll go to AMOS Pro system, which is picking up in DF0, and we'll select AMOS Pro from there. So that's picking up AMOS Pro from this ADF file. So the Go drive is ticking away. Let's see what happens. Oh, a little cursor. This is looking promising.
AMOS Professional.
Press any key. English. Okay. Right, so what I'm going to do is that's running off of ADF. So I'm going to try this process again, but with floppy disk. So we'll give that a go. Okay, so we're going to use the original system disk. Right, here we go again. volumes, and AMOS Pro. So that's selecting the one off of the floppy disk. So now we've got the actual floppy disk is working. Okay, wait for it.
AMOS Professional.
English. Looking hopeful. Okay. From floppy disk now, we also advise you to back up your original disk. Hard disk users should go on by clicking the OK below. Way to install. So devices, DH1. We'll go to programming. Right, so this is the extra bit of code, and what this does is show the amount of memory free. Installed a request, not enough room on this device. Oh, that's not good. Okay, this is not good. Okay, we need to stop and think about this. Right, so I have the revised installer now on this floppy disk. What I need to do though is fire up directory opus. So we're back on the Back in Black Amiga now, and let's go to df1. So install, that's the file I want. Yep, I know. And let's go dh1 programming. What I need to do is to remove these, because these are the old versions. So I'm going to delete those. Now I'm going to take install AMOS and copy that across. So this is the new installer now copied onto the hard drive on this machine. So what I can also do here, if I now take out that disk, and if I pop, now I'm going to put the system disk into drive DF0, push that into the left window, and what we're going to do is take the icon for that, the info file, and copy that over. Right, okay, now I'm going to quit directory opus, come out there, come out there. Right, so AMOS system disk is in drive DF0. I've got the installer file sitting in this programming folder. Let's just tidy that up. Right, so when I run this, it's going to ask for the correct the program to point to, and I'll set that, and hopefully this should install. So let's try that. Right, so here we go, install. So I need to select the tool AMOS Pro, and that is currently sitting on AMOS Pro system, which is in DF0. So let's go there. There it is, select. Right, let's see what happens. So there's a little star on the screen. Let's see if this will run this time. There's the audio, little intro run.
AMOS Professional.
Okay. Press a key. Right, we are English. I am very nervous right now. Given the changes I've made to this, I just really hope they work. Okay. Hard disk user, click OK. So I can go to devices, DH1, and I'm going to my programming folder. Oh, making progress. I don't want to put the examples disk on. We'll have the tutorials. So now it's saying there's not going to be enough space. 353, this is 164. If I take the tutorials out, that's interesting. It could be a, yeah, okay, let's take out the productivity disks as well. And we'll go with that. Let's see what happens. Okay. All right, we're reading a directory, so it's reading stuff off of the system disk. Copying files, hard drive lights flashing. Well, it did flash. Yep, there we go, we're getting hard drive activity. Oh, progress. Right, insert the accessories disk. So productivity tutorial example. Oh, there it is. Accessories disk. External floppy drives going mad. Let's put the accessories disk in. Reading directory. So far so good. I'm kind of wondering if I should have tried to install those other disks, but AMOS Professional is now installed on your chosen device. To load and run AMOS Pro, quit back to the workbench, double click on the AMOS Pro icon found in Programming AMOS Pro. Quit to return or reboot your system. Please remove the disk from DF0. Doing that. Okay. Let's see what happens. Right, so let's go into Lucid Nonsense, to my programming folder. Look at that, there's an AMOS Pro folder there now. Oh, there's AMOS Pro. Let's run it, see what happens. Black screen. No! No, 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 no. Okay, so I have on an external floppy disk, I've got some backup AMOS files from my other Amiga where I run AMOS on that. And what I've done is this AMOS program here, I've gone into information on that. And this program exists on an external floppy disk. And what I've done, I've told it to use AMOS Pro on this machine to run, okay? So if I fire that program, it runs the program straight into AMOS Pro on this machine, which is great. And the program ends, and as you can see, the screen display is absolutely fine. And look at that. There is nothing wrong with that display at all. And if I do left Amiga A, back to workbench. Left Amiga A, now there's a corrupt version. That is very interesting. I'm thinking I've got two versions of AMOS Pro maybe running. Okay, what I'm going to do is reboot and see if that does the same thing after rebooting. Right, so I've rebooted and let's dive on here and see if I can get that program to run. So at the moment it's just, so if I do left Amiga A, there's nothing else running on here. Just a vanilla boot into Workbench. Let me just quickly fire into here. And I think off of tutorial 1 it was part 2 AMOS. So let me run that. What's it going to run? So it's loading that from floppy. It's run it. Program has run. And here I am in AMOS Pro. If I do left Amiga A, back to Workbench, left Amiga A again, corrupt screen. That is very interesting. The plot thickens. This is quite the mystery. So after some investigation, reading on various forums, speaking to people in the community, we determined that version 1 of AMOS Pro will not work properly with OS 3.2 due to a set patch command that fires in 3.2 on startup. I could stand to be corrected on that. But this is enabling graphics modes which AMOS Pro is not aware of, hence you get the corrupt screen. So the solution for this is to upgrade version 1 to version 2. Now the good news is the AMOS Pro compiler, of which I have the box version just here, has an updater disk to take AMOS Pro from version 1 to version 2. Brilliant! But there's a problem. On this disk, and as part of the updater process, it does an available storage check on your hard drive to see if it's got enough space to do the update. And guess what? That storage check is faulty. And as a result, it says that there's not enough space on your hard drive to do the update. Now another problem is the installer, or rather the updater on this disk, is not written in AMOS. So I can't get into the code to correct that space check like I did with the original AMOS installer program. So we're a bit stuck at this point, but there is a solution. What you can do is source the version 2 AMOS Pro ADF files, and you can do the install from there, and that will quite naturally install version 2 of AMOS Pro. But you will need the modified installer, because once again that space check needs to be done correctly so AMOS installer knows that there's enough space on your hard drive to install AMOS. Are you keeping up with this? Because it's starting to get a little bit confusing, but let's give that a go. Okay, on my hard drive partition where I'm going to install AMOS Pro, I have the revised installer program in a folder. I've just called the folder AP New. You can call it what you like, but I've just dumped it in this folder because this is where I'm going to install AMOS Pro 2. Right, so what I want to do is assign this installer to the AMOS Pro program on this AMOS Pro version 2 system disk, which is an ADF file. So what I'm going to do is go to information on that, and we'll assign it to, we're just going to make sure it's assigned to the right disk. So AMOS Pro system DF0, AMOS Pro program, okay, save, and we're good. Right, so let's go then. So if I've got the AMOS Pro system disk on my USB drive, on the Go drive here, so if I now run the installer, that should run AMOS Pro from the ADF file.
AMOS Professional.
Okay, press any key. We're going to select English. It does this update. It's giving us a registration number. We'll click OK. Your system disk will now boot directly into AMOS Professional, but hard disk users should go on by clicking the OK button below, which is what we're going to do. And now, where does it want to install AMOS Pro? So I'm going to go to Devices, DH1, Programming, AP New. Brilliant. Click OK. So it's told us how much free space there is. Now this is another calculation which I believe is further on down the line in the installer, and I can't get around this. So we've got enough space just to install the AMOS Pro system disk and the accessories disk. Accessories disk is quite important because that's got your object editor in there, and obviously AMOS Pro system for the AMOS Pro system. These other disks we can't get on at the moment. To be fair, if you were putting on AMOS Pro from the Amiga format cover disk that came out, it's only going to give you AMOS Pro system and the accessories disk, as far as I know. So we're good to get AMOS Pro up and running just by having these two disks installed. So let's now click on install, and here we go. Look at this. It's reading from the ADF. You'll also notice that the installer is running without a corrupted screen, so things are looking good. So let's just wait for this to install. Right, now we want the AMOS Pro accessories disk. So on here, that should be my next ADF. There we go, it's found it. So on the USB, I lined them up, the system disk and the accessories disk, one after the other. AMOS Professional is now installed onto your chosen device. It's in this folder, DH1 Programming AP New AMOS Pro. It creates all the assigns when you run it, that's not a problem. So if I quit out of here, please remove the disk from DF0. I'll take that out. I'm going to switch that back. Remove the disk from DF1. Even though we weren't using anything in DF1, it wants us to remove any disk that's in there. So we'll now click OK. Right, now I'm hopeful. If I now go into my AP New, there is an AMOS Pro folder. Let's just get rid of that. So let's see what happens. AMOS Pro is there. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Come on. Yeah. Yes. Yes. It's installed. AMOS Professional version 2. There it is. Oh man, I am so happy. There it is. Look, it's there. It's absolutely there, and it's running from Workbench. That is absolutely amazing. And if I switch and switch, come on, come back to me. There it is. It's absolutely there and working. That is incredible. What I'm going to do, let's put a disk in there, and let's make sure that it does actually load. So if I go devices, DF1, programming, let's go to something I'm working on, just a little thing that I'm tinkering with. So this has an AMOS program, and it's got a ABK file as well, because there's some bobs. Let me just run this. Look at that. That it's working. It's running an AMOS program. It's absolutely working. I am so relieved. Yes. Ha ha. Control C that. Brilliant. It's working. Happy days. Yes. And that is it for this video. If you've made it this far, thank you for sticking with me and watching it to the end. I really hope this video has been of some use to you. I could have made the video a lot shorter by just simply saying to install AMOS Pro, use the modified installer and grab the version 2 ADF files, and off you go. But I really wanted to bring you along for this journey and somehow let you see my pain that I went through to get this done. Nothing but committed, that's me. Or maybe I should be committed, who knows. Maybe next we can try and install AMOS 3D, or even Easy AMOS. No, we're going to get back on the AMOS trail and do some coding next, so that's coming up in future videos. But all that's left for me to say now is thank you ever so much for watching. Whatever you do, look after yourselves and keep it retro.